Bryce Young, you stink. It was like in comparison to C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. When he had his first couple games, what I would expect most people to say, but not true. But Frank Reich, you stink. Considering you got fired last week and we was losing, I was like having a poor record. Obviously, it's your fault, right? No. The GM, you stink because of the picks that you got ain't all coming together to, give us some wins, some victories. I was like, how dare you? And the stuff you picking and you going out to get people. Wait, some of the moves might be GM related, but man, some of the moves just seem a little bit out of norm and just rushed. And I wonder who can do it. Oh, the owner, the owner, and that's who's at fault for the Carolina Panthers. Really, to be honest, out of everybody, I was like, if Bryce Young had been bad this year, he played like a rookie. It's just that CJ Stroud had been so good. I think that's an unfair comparison. And I think in the small bits we got to see of Anthony Richardson, the same thing was going on. Now, whether you think they made the wrong pick or whatever, I thought Stroud was the better of the three because I thought he was more ready. I didn't think he'd be this, but I thought he was more ready. But I also thought that my other pick would be Richardson because the upside was greater, and we sort of got to see that a little bit. But the thing that I thought that you would be able to get with Bryce Young is basically a guy who can be accurate and who can place the ball in spots and if need be can run a bit. I think that Bryce Young, if the situation whoever they get next year right, I don't see why he can't be based on what Brock Purdy is. Not saying that Brock Purdy is on this end or this end. It's really just that I'm like, he understands that, boom, I need to give it to my receivers. Immediately, I know how the coverage is to give it to them in the right spots to let them do what they need to do to be special. And when I need to, I have an athleticism to get a first down, to make some people miss in the pocket, to move. Because that's really what Bryce Young is. Bryce Young is somebody that's just going to run in the same way that Richardson or I was like he's more. I was like a Lamar or something like that. Or he's more of a Patrick Mahomes kind of moving in the pocket. Rodgers moving in the pocket. Yes, they can scramble for about 12 to 15 yards, but you see what they're really trying to do is really move here and there and stuff like that. Even a Russell Wilson, like yes, he does use his legs quite a bit, but that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to gain leverage to his offensive player by like getting defense in. And Bryce Young, he doesn't have crazy speed to just take off, but he does have enough wiggle and all that other stuff in the pocket, going to the outside, things like that. And I think you've seen at times that, like, of course, his security blanket is Thielen, but that you've seen like once Chark started, like Chark hadn't really been there for most early on in the season. So guess what? Now it's like you're starting to see Chark a little bit more. I like I was like, now if you want to say how often, because the thing is they got really decent to good receivers to not be this bad how they've been on offense. To me, the poor job is the defense of because we really thought they were going to hang their head on defense. Like they got good running backs and an all right offensive line and everything else, and that's how you sort of do. But the defense had been really like great like that. It hadn't looked like how it was last year, where we thought it was very promising that they had a chance to be really good to, very good. The line has been okay. And I was like, but like I said, Bryce Young is really a rookie, and I think those outlying things really what made it more start, and that's why I said it's the owner. You sort of seen the owner start doing this, and it's just now where it's just like I feel like everybody's attention is on it. I was like, I used to have like things back and forth with people where they was like, we need to get rid of this. Oh, it's this fault. Like when they was over here at Matt Rule, and I'm not saying that Matt Rule was like some good coach or whatever, but I'm saying he got like a decade-long contract to fix the team. He's a college coach, bringing in Joe Brady, who was a college coordinator at coming off of the LSU. What I'm saying is that 10 years means that, hey, for my first 3 to 4 years, you ought to know we're probably not going to be that good. Why? Because we're trying to jettison that old regime. You got rid of Ron Rivera. You did Cam Newton dirty, but you got him out of there as well. You got rid of Thomas Davis. I was like, eventually Greg Olsen was gone out of there. You basically was weeding out and getting rid of everybody that had something to do with the old regime. I was like, I was like Darrell Washington Williams gone. I was like, I think the only person that you got from that time really is like Moulton. I was like, because you got rid of Caffrey, you got to get rid of DJ Moore and stuff like that. So in that aspect, you could say like, yes, the general manager make moves and you need to figure out the pieces to fit. And I was like, he's got good. He's had a pretty good where like you got Chen, who they don't seem like they knew what to do with, but you grabbed him. Like J.C. Horn, I was like, he just been injured quite a bit. I think even getting, I was like, the pick of getting, I was like getting C.J. Henderson from Jacksonville. That's a good move because it's a low pick for a guy that was a first round pick. So you're betting on that risk. Getting somebody like when they got Gilmore, that's like an owner type move of like pushing for the playoff when you knew that it's really not, and you should really just keep your draft picks and just see what the youngsters can do. That kind of thing. Oh, and Shaq Thompson is also left over from the previous regime. But, so, and Mingo, I was like, Mingo, the receiver, I was like, he's been a really good bright spot too, especially after losing DJ Moore. So I'm like, but Frank Reich also too, like, granted how it all ended with the Colts and him getting immediately the job really quickly, you could sort of say something of like, he didn't really have a chance to step out or really see. I was like, he ain't on that level like how Andy Reid immediately got, a job. Even though Frank Reich had he had a few good years with there. But I'm like, but also with that, when he did have a really good team that they were able to build up despite losing Andrew Luck. The quarterback thing that he hangs his head on, that sort of stuff, but they kept doing reclamation project. Carson Wentz. I was like, Phillip Rivers, not really that, but he's on his latter leg. Like Matt Ryan on his latter legs, kind of thing. So, you got that. You got Josh McCown, who was in talks of being like head coaches places, offensive coordinator places. So, very high on that. Deuce Staley, been around a long time. A coach that everybody sort of like respects right here. Jim Caldwell. I was like, he's been sort of in and out, but where it's like, but he's also been head coach, quarterback coach, all these other things. So it's like, so the perception is this is the best spot for them. It was a rising team. It was a team that had nothing but offensive like people to make sure that you bring the quarterback along. Now, in saying that, they also fell into the same thing of like the Raiders did, where Raiders had Tony Bisaccia, that was able to rally this team and get them going after the John Gruden stuff. And instead of like, being able to use that ill will to be like, okay, cool, like at least like be like, yo, we're gonna give you another year and now see what the team, they're familiar with you, all this other stuff. They jettison him out for Josh McDaniels. And we've seen how that's gone. McDaniels also is out of here. Carolina had the same thing. Steve Wilkes, with that team that was also pretty sorry, was able to get enough out that team to be into the playoff race. But at the same time, they was in the playoff race because the division sucked. And that's why he was in it. So on one hand, you could say the division sucked. That's why you was able to have this little rallying cry. Let's get rid of him. But at the same time, that also was a team that really shouldn't have been even that close considering all things. And guess what? He was able to get him that close. So that also should earn you that little bit of like will to be like, okay, cool. And the thing is, you could have gave him a year. You were still going to draft the same quarterback. You were still going to do whatever. You could. I was like, the team was around him and all this other stuff. I was like, he didn't really get a fair shake with the Arizona. Let's be honest, just as much as here. Um, so in that, I'm like, he could have had a better chance at that. But he had, I was like, with the defense going, that everybody kind of like where like what happened to Brian Burns, all this other stuff, and like now everybody seemed like they're on the lowest version of themselves, pretty much with Carolina. Um, but yeah, it's the owner. Going back to the owner, when I used to just said I used to just go back with people, and I'm like, do you you should know that you're gonna be sorry, and like the division has really just been weak. Let's be honest, the division has been weak in a way that has given unreal like mirages of what the team is. The team is a really young team, and the team shouldn't be that close. Like they brought back Cam Newton, and I was like, to me, I don't feel like that it was a problem bringing him back. I was like, but then the expectation of what he was supposed to do when he immediately got back there with a different. When he got there, I was like, it was this coordinated with Joe Brady. Then all of a sudden he had to switch up, so you basically had like 4 or 5 games. But the whole point, I was like, the whole point of it was like to try to make this whole like race, which Cam has even said that if he had another chance, he wouldn't have done it. Coming in at short notice, I also think too that I was like, it's also sort of like how they sort of did it of like bringing him thinking that he could do something in that short amount of time. But I mean, there were chances and stuff like that. But the team, how they did him, I was like, this Jets. I was like, with Christian McCaffrey, they at least let him choose to sort of get up out of there. I was like, Robbie Chosen, I guess his name now. I was like, jettison him off the way that had happened. And I was like, that seemed like it's a locker room thing, but still, I was like, to me, it's just messy, and it's all really cause the owner. That's really what it is. Whether it was like, oh, cool, Bridgewater, that's what we're going to bring in. After 1 year, get Bridgewater out of here. I don't even want to see that. Get Darnold in. Then after Darnold come in, get him out of here, even though he's technically stayed and played. But Mayfield, let's get him out of here. Hell, get him out of here before the year's over. I'm like, so that carousel in and of itself, it's just a lot. Yeah, and to me, that's just so much of this owner trying to be like, playoff. We need this. Get in. And also, I really feel like is he trying to make this much so more his thing, his control. Whereas like I'm like, you got rid of every single Panther that made it the Panthers. I'm like, you could have kept Cam, or you could even kept Cam until you got a quarterback of some sort or something like that. I was like, but I understand getting rid of him. Ron Rivera, I understand getting rid of him. I understand it where you did that and then you bring in like Matt Rule. I understand that transition, but you don't follow through with it, and then everything else has been just a whole bunch of puh. That's where it starts to be your fault in all this. Anyway, I'm just saying, hey, Bryce Young, hopefully you get somebody good enough next year to. Cause I don't think he's lost, but I think this is how you can ruin a quarterback. Cause I was like, there's no reason why he shouldn't be Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud in that form. I was like, does he have a chance to be great? But being a good quarterback, I think he could do that, even if his stature's that small. Even if he wouldn't have been my pick, and according to everybody else, the pick of everybody that got fired either. But I feel like they were going to make do with what it was, and it's the owner that pretty much is just like putting a foot on top of y'all the whole time. Anyway, that's my assessment of the Panthers so far. I was like, what you think? Do you think it is the owner? Do you think it's everything? I mean, of course, it's a little bit of everything, but I was like, but who's the main one here? And I was like, to me, it's like something like the owner in this situation. But anyway, like the video, I appreciate it. Thanks. Other than that, you didn't. Maybe next time. But till then, next time.